He rides me like I'm a horse. He is not normal, I can't keep up with him, his energy is too much. I can't satisfy him, she gasped. He never stops, he is like a spirit. I thought I would die. Story time. Village of Umuagu was known for many things: fertile lands, the wisdom of its elders, and the beauty of its maidens. But no story had ever shaken its people like that of Chibuike, a man both feared and admired. Chibuike was the kind of man who turned heads wherever he went. Tall, broad-shouldered, and blessed with a body carved like a warrior's, he was the pride of his aging mother, Mama Nkem. Women longed for his attention, mothers dreamed of him as a son-in-law, and men envied the effortless way he commanded respect. Yet, for all his physical perfection, Chibuike was different. He had never known the touch of a woman. Raised solely by his mother after his father's untimely death, he was taught to honor his purity. Mama Nkem had shielded him, whispering words of caution in his ears: wait for the one who is truly yours. If you are enjoying the story, please click on the subscription button to encourage my work. Years passed, and the time came for Chibuike to take a wife. His heart had long been set on a Fananya, a slender beauty with eyes that gleamed like the night sky. From the first day he saw her walking to the stream, balancing a clay pot on her head, he knew she was the one. The village rejoiced when their wedding was announced. On the day of the union, drums thundered, voices rose in song, and dancers moved with the spirit of celebration. But what was meant to be a joyful beginning turned into a nightmare. That night, the moon stood witness as Chibuike and Fananya entered their hut, their hands trembling with anticipation. But before dawn, a piercing scream tore through the silence. Fananya, what is it? Mama Nkem rushed out of her hut, her heart pounding in fear. The young bride was outside, her wrapper loosely tied, her face streaked with tears. He is not normal. She gasped. He never stops, he is like a spirit. I thought I would die. A stunned silence spread through the gathering crowd. Chibuike, barefoot and bewildered, stepped out behind her, his face filled with confusion. Before anyone could react, Fananya had fled. By morning, she was gone, leaving Chibuike with only the whispers of the village. Days passed, and the scandal only grew. Some pitied Fananya, but many called her weak. Some women murmured among themselves, certain that they could succeed where she had failed. One of them was Oluki, a woman of fire and boldness. Fananya was simply not strong enough, she declared. I will show him what a real woman is. She pursued Chibuike with unwavering determination, using every trick to capture his heart. Eventually, he gave in, hopeful that this time, things would be different. But history repeated itself. On their wedding night, Oluki, who had once spoken with such confidence, ran out screaming into the darkness. It burns. I can't take it. He is not human. By the next morning, she too was gone. Fear began to spread. The village women who once envied Fananya now spoke her name with a mix of pity and relief. The men kept the distance, wary of whatever force seemed to haunt Chibuike. Mama Nkem, desperate and ashamed, sought the wisdom of a herbalist, who gave them concoctions and whispered reassurances. But nothing changed. Woman after woman left Chibuike's hut in fear, until no one dared to try any more. Rumors swirled, dark and dreadful. He is cursed, some said. The gods have marked him. And then came the whispers of an old debt. One evening, a stranger came to Mama Nkem's hut. He was aged, with eyes that had seen too much. You have forgotten, he murmured. Her breath caught in her throat. Forgotten what? Then, like a flood, the memory returned. The prayers whispered into the night, the desperate pleas for a child. The promise she and her husband had made to the gods before Chibuike was born. 3 white goats, 3 calabashes of palm wine, and a night of chanting before the shrine. They had never fulfilled it. The gods are collecting the debt, the old man said. If you do not pay, they will take him back. Desperation seized Mama Nkem. She sold her last piece of land, gathered the offerings, and carried her son to the shrine in a neighboring village. There, in the heart of the forest, the priest stood before the fire. His eyes bore into Chibuike as if seeing into his very soul. The gods are merciful, he finally said. But your debt must be paid in full. The ritual was performed. As the final sacrifice was laid, a great wind swept through the trees, and the fire flared into the sky. Then, suddenly, it was gone, extinguished as if it had never burned. It is done, the priest said. But the story was not over. Even if the gods had forgiven, who would marry a man so feared? Chibuike left Umuagu, wandering to distant lands, searching for a woman who would not flee. And then, in a village far from his own, he met Chinaza, a woman unlike any other. She was strong, unshaken by tales of curses or fear. She looked into Chibuike's eyes and saw not a monster, but a man. They married, and that night, for the first time, there were no screams, only peace. When the news reached Umuagu, the village could not believe it. How could a woman stay where so many had fled? But in the end, they realized the truth. It was never about strength. It was about acceptance. Chibuike returned, no longer an outcast, but a man reborn. And as he held his firstborn child in his arms, Mama Nkem whispered to him, her voice thick with emotion. A promise to the gods should never be forgotten. If you love the story, please click on the subscription button to encourage my work.